Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Zone by D'Antonio podcast. Today we are going to go over Michigan State's loss to Michigan, 82-72 on Saturday. Um, this was a eye-opening loss for Michigan State, and I looked at this matchup. I thought Michigan State would handle their business at home. They're playing a good Michigan team. Michigan definitely a good team in the Big Ten, one of the top five teams, probably top three team possibly. Although Ohio State is in the conversation for that. But there's a couple things that really made me frustrated on Saturday. But a couple things that I think Michigan State can build on later on this year, and starting Friday versus Indiana. That'll be important. So Michigan was very good in this game defensively, I thought, but I also thought Michigan State was very stagnant on the offense. It just seemed like there was too much dribbling at the front of the key from Winston and other guys. Winston played a lot of minutes in this game, and you look at Michigan. Mo Wagner he was the man. He was the man of the day. Every time he got the ball, he seemed to score. He looks miles away from that injury that he had against Texas, and he had really struggled before. But I'll tell you something about Mo Wagner. He gets up for big moments. I'll give him that. I know how I know. Man, you probably know how I feel about him compared to guys like Jaron Jackson Jr. I don't think he's as good, but he gets up for big moments and he makes big shots. And you saw that on Saturday. And one thing that really frustrated the hell out of me, and I'm sure it frustrates Coach Izzo, was the turnovers. Michigan State was shooting over 50% the entire game. Okay, and Michigan State, that's something they do. They're one of the best shooting teams in the nation. But the other team can't have 17 more shots than you. It doesn't matter. Okay, and the turnovers were just bad. Some of them were forced. Most of them were unforced. McQuaid not looking the ball into his hands, let it go right out of bounds. Miles Bridges had a couple turnovers. The carelessness with the ball is shocking. The carelessness, they don't value the ball the way a Tom Izzo team usually values the ball. And let me tell you, that's a pretty good Michigan team, but they're not known for their defense. And Michigan, they play pretty good defense. I thought when Michigan State got the ball in the post, they played very well. They were able to get good offense off of that, and they're not good when they're just dribbling out front. Another thing about Michigan State's defense is they really struggled on the ball screens. They were terrible. Michigan was able to roll the basket pretty easily, either getting open shots on the pick and pop or open rolls to the basket. And that is something that Izzo definitely has to look at, and he has a week off for Indiana on Friday, so that'll be something he definitely looks at. And listen, Michigan State's defense been one of the best in the country, and they were pretty good in this game when it comes to one on one. Michigan was only shooting in the 30s, and Michigan's a really very good shooting team, and Michigan State held them into the 30s percentage wise. But when you give the team extra chances, this is what happens. And it was not fun to watch. I'll tell you that right now. I thought when they got that 3-point lead at half, I thought game over. Michigan State's going to come out in the second half ready to go and win, but Michigan just completely outplayed Michigan State in the second half. Some troubling signs for Michigan State. Langford, for the second time in 3 games, was not very good at all. He didn't have, I can't remember how many points he had, but he was awful in the game. Miles Bridges was aggressive early. That's something I liked. He was aggressive, which is good, and he got to the basket. And when he drives to the basket, he needs to make good decisions with the basketball. He can't throw it into traffic. Okay. Same goes with Cassius Winston, and I thought Cassius Winston had a bad night. He had a bad game. He struggled on the defensive side of the ball, defending the ball screens, but he also struggled, turnover wise. He turned the ball over a bunch, and the assist numbers were down in this game for Michigan State. That was a shocking line. Michigan State really has made a name off of their assists this year, and that has definitely been down this season. Or this game. But really, this team is too talented to keep playing like this. I think I think they'll be ready to play against Indiana, and I think they have a chance to win out in the Big Ten. But I said that before, and it didn't happen. So they're going to have some slip ups. This is a young team, and the way they just went for Maryland, they just they completely dismantled Maryland a couple weeks ago. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. Michigan State destroyed Maryland, and I just don't think that the way they're playing right now can continue. I really don't think so. I think Michigan State is going to come out of this slump sometime, and it starts with taking care of the basketball and making good shots or finding good shots and open shots. Michigan State coming into this next game Friday against Indiana, I expect them to value the basketball. Indiana's got some juniors and seniors, and they've won three in a row. They're a good team. Michigan State cannot take them lightly. Okay, and you definitely saw last Saturday against Ohio State, and it really showed up. Really against Ohio State, it really showed up against Rutgers. I think Michigan State got a little complacent with themselves after that Maryland win. They were all over the ball. They were hustling down the court. Nick Ward was getting easy baskets because when Michigan State runs, almost nobody can keep up with him. And we saw how the Big Ten has a lot of parity last night. Maryland could have easily won that game against Michigan last night, and Michigan State blew out Maryland by 30 points. So yeah, it's a night by night basis for each team. Maryland was obviously having a bad streak when they played Michigan State, and right now Michigan State's having a bad streak, but it can't continue. A couple years ago, Denzel Valentine and Deontay Davis and those guys, they struggled too. They had a 3 game stretch. They had a 3 game losing streak in the middle of the season. They ended up finishing the year very well, and I do think this Michigan State team is too good. They have too much talent for this skid to continue. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think they have a good chance to win out. Their schedule is pretty easy. They do have Maryland on the road, but they do get Purdue at home, which is pretty good, and they do have to go to Minnesota. That'll be a tough game for them. Um, but Michigan outplayed Michigan State in this game, but I think Michigan State lost this game more than Michigan won the game. To be honest with you, just the amount of turnovers, and Michigan State shot a better percentage by almost 20 points. It seemed like, and give it to Beeline. Beeline knows how to come into Izzo's house and win. He's done that pretty well. What is that? His third win in Izzo's house in his coaching career, so that's pretty good. But you look at Michigan State's schedule, and it's pretty dang easy coming up. So I think Michigan State will rebound just fine. I think we saw the Maryland game. I think you're going to see that Michigan State come out against Indiana, and Indiana's a good team. So they better take care of business on Friday, or we can start worrying because Izzo talked about it in his press conference. Just the amount of youth on this Michigan State team. All right, yeah, they have sophomores, a lot of sophomores on the team. These are young sophomores, and what do you have? 3 seniors, and only one really plays a good amount. When you talk about Tum Tum Nairn and Gavin Schilling, he did have a big dunk, a big flush over Isaiah Livers in the Michigan game. Uh, But I talk about leaders, and Miles has to be a better leader. I talked about that before. So yeah, I think Michigan State will come out of this just fine. They'll look back at this 3 game stretch and say, you know what, that was a bad stretch, but that's not how our team is. Just got a little complacent. And they have to understand, though, that they're going to get every team's best shot because this is not high school. The talent gap between these teams is not as great as it is in other other sports, especially football. The talent gap in football is a lot bigger than it is in basketball. You can go on the road any day and lose in the Big Ten. It doesn't matter who you're playing. And listen, Michigan State, they're going to shoot the ball better. Langford's going to get in the offense. All right, Cassius is going to start getting more assists. Miles, I know he has to be more aggressive. I think he'll do that. Um, Nick Ward has to get the ball more. And Nick Ward didn't play very well against Michigan, but against almost all other competition, I like Nick Ward a lot. He does struggle passing the ball, which does worry me a bit. But I do think Nick Ward is just too important. Saw in the NCAA first round against Miami last year, Michigan State blew him out. Nick Ward was just unbelievable in that game, and I think we're gonna see that Nick Ward again this week against Indiana, later on against Iowa. So I think Michigan State has a good chance to still win the league. They get Purdue at home. They don't have to play Michigan again. They don't have to play Ohio State again. They have an easy schedule coming up. All right. Northwestern's still on there. That's a tough game, but I like Michigan State to win the league again. Probably regular season wise, yeah, I would say so. And they're a 3 seed in the bracketology. I think they'll get back to the 1 seed, but they better start winning now if they want that. Because if they are as good as I think they are, they better start winning games. So that is going to be it for this episode of the Is Owned by D'Antonio podcast. Next episode will be Wednesday. Might get into some football, might not. Might talk about basketball some more. Thank you everybody for watching the Is Owned by D'Antonio podcast. And thank you.